John's out. Brandon. Here. And Harden's out. So you have 3.
John should be
John's
here
way.
hopefully in a minute, so we are going to start actually with the new business item, so that Mr. Squires can get on with his rest of his evening. Item number 200125 is a request for consideration of the purchase of a replacement vacuum truck. Mr. Squires, you wanna tell us what we got?
Yeah, we were just asking, this is the new, it's a one-man, truck. Currently, what we've had is a 3-man truck. Ours are, I think the trucks are actually like 97 models, the 2 that we have left, and it's just to replace them. Another city actually ordered this and has backed out on it, so it has become available. And so it's basically just one of these that would have been in the upcoming, but it's a 18 to 20 month lead time on the vacuum part. And so that's why the urgency to come tonight and to get it. I talked to the mayor about it. Other than that, it would have been a regular, capital budget item that I would have come to you with this fall, but the opportunity has presented itself. The following neighboring city has decided not to purchase it. So I was called and asked if we would be interested, so.
And remind me, Berkeley, I think you just said this, if you were to order this truck, it would be, what, 2 years before?
Yeah, I mean, if we ordered it, I'll tell you this, if we ordered it this October, it would be about 20 months before we would actually
Get it.
get it.
And this is a brand new one, has
Yeah,
not
no,
been.
it's a 24 model.
Okay.
It's just coming from the vacuum industry, where they're putting the vacuum on it from. And
Okay.
Blake's checked, I went with Blake, and he it's the same engine, transmission we use, and it
Okay.
has the 100,000 mile warranty and all on it. So everything on that end is correct, so, but it would replace 2 older vacuums that they're 3-man truck, you have to have 3
Do we
people.
anticipate surplusing those
Yes,
at some point?
yes, those will be
in the future?
surplus and sold off.
Okay.
How much
So.
is this unit?
Yeah, how much is the?
This one is, tell you how things change in a 2-year period. It's right at 283,000. In 2022, the truck was about 170,000, same truck. So,
And we're using this for what?
it's just vacuum.
Clean-
We run
street
it along the
cleaning.
streets and
Okay.
street cleaning, gutters, things like that.
Gotcha.
And the
And
sweeper,
it is
the
like-
street sweeper can only get
It's
so
like
much.
the smaller one we have. Okay, so
Yes.
it's an alternative to this.
Yeah.
And he
It
doesn't,
is.
the person doesn't have to get out of the
No,
truck,
they
right? It is
operate
just
the
literally
control
like,
from in there.
like a
And,
joystick or whatever.
The sweeper's only gonna pick up, certain items, it's not gonna vacuum up a whole lot of stuff.
So
So-
it's not a leak factor.
No, it's gonna suck up whatever's down there, but it's a bigger version of the sweeper ultimately is what it is.
Multi-purpose vacuum truck.
That's it, so. But it'll help us
Where's
with
the
the
money,
gutters and stuff.
where are we gonna pull the money from?
So the money will be coming from the 7-cent gas tax.
Okay,
I found a Attorney General's opinion that specifically, it covers the exact same situation. So we have money in that fund, and that's where we'll be pulling from.
okay,
I've made a motion for approval.
okay.
With the appropriate transfer of $285,000 for 66.
I think 283 will cover everything.
283?
Yeah.
Okay.
$283,000.
Okay, alright, motion from Mr. Blount.
Second.
Second from Mr. Harden. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
That is 4-0 to approve that, to go out to council on Monday night. Thank you.
Lester,
Thank
will you
you.
send me the account number it's going to?
Yes, sir.
I did forget, I'm sorry, okay, I'm gonna go back to the start. We need to dispense with the reading and approve the minutes from our previous meeting on January 27th. All right.
Second.
Motion from Mr. Baldwin, second from Mr. Harden. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
4-0, those minutes are approved. Sorry about that. Okay, I'm skipping all around today. 190125, because we have our auditors here. Request for consideration of the audit report for fiscal year ending September 30th, 2023. Our auditors from BNSS and Lester Smith. And we have them here.
Over here.
Oh, sorry. You went down there, y'all moved.
Do you want us, is it okay if I sit here like I usually do?
Sure.
Do y'all, okay.
Yeah. Wait, hold on.
Can
Now,
y'all
Mike,
see?
You might need to be down here, Brian, for purposes of you. Is that fine? Okay. All right, you're good.
What I will say before BMSS gets started, as Counselor Smith has already stated, this is for the fiscal year ending September 30th, 2023, right?
Oh, I
So
said I
as
might
you
have said
know,
20.
that's, no, you didn't.
I
You
did say- I said it right?
23.
Okay, good.
You got it right. So this audit was, I'll say, slow in being completed because of a lot of the activities, conditions, circumstances that occurred. So this is putting 2023, completing it as it relates to the September 30th, 2024 audit. We've already started the field work there and we're at about 40% complete. So our target date for completing that audit is scheduled for March 31st. Okay, that should get us back on track. What they're gonna be going over today will be, you all have this information, it's been sent to you all previously. It'll be going over the audited financial statements, it'll be going over the single audit, and then it'll also be going over their findings that was attached to the single audit, as well as what I call the management letter, correct? So with that, I'll turn it over to Ms. Jenny Gray.
Okay.
And my apologies if y'all are gonna stand, do go down to that end, sorry.
But if we sit down, we can sit right here?
Yes.
Okay, I'll sit. Okay. Okay. Hello, everybody. I'm Jenny Gray. I work for BMSS, and I know I've met most of y'all before at prior finance committee meetings, and actually saw Counselor Sims and Counselor Andrus at the ACCMA last week. So anyway, I'm Jenny with BMSS. I'm an assurance senior manager, and I do mostly work on local municipalities, sometimes some school boards, but I'm in the governmental realm of our firm. And I wanted to come out. I know usually we come out and give a report after we finish up the financial statements, and Lester had said that he still wanted us to come out and do that for the fiscal year 2023 audit as well. And so if you guys want to, what I was planning to do is just start off the way that we normally do with going through the financial statements. Then we'll go through our single audit report, and then we'll go through the letter to those charged with governance, which we issue on every audit that we do. And then we also do have a management letter. Some of the things that are reflected in the management letter are things that are also in our single audit report. But I think we've got a couple of other matters that we mentioned in the management letter. And then if you guys have any questions or need more information from Lester, this is Stephen Von Hagel. He's one of the members for our firm. You can just feel free to ask us, or let Lester know you want to talk to us or something, and we'll be happy to reach out to you and answer any questions that y'all might have. So I'll start with the financial statements. Obviously, these are the financial statements, and we're engaged by the city to come in and do an audit about the numbers that are reported in the financial statements. So that starts with our independent auditor's report. The independent auditor's report is the only information in this packet that is ours. Everything else is the city's. So those numbers that are reported in there are given to us when we come out to do the audit, and then we issue an opinion saying we think that they're presented fairly in all material aspects. So we did have an unmodified opinion on the financial statements for fiscal year 2023. That means that when we came in and did the audit procedures and gathered all the information that supported the numbers in the financial statements, that we do think that they are presented in all material respects in the packet here. And then if you go to page 7, this is the management's discussion and analysis. This started, I have been doing this for longer than I think always. So I'm like, oh, we just started this a couple years ago, but this actually started back with GASB 34. They started wanting management to come in and say, here's our condensed financial information, and here's kind of how we feel like we did this year. And then to give a couple of things about what they're looking forward to in the future. So that's on pages 7 through, and it's got condensed information, and I feel like this is really helpful because it presents really the numbers that, you'll see throughout the rest of the financial statements and notes, in a summarized format. But that's on page, 7 through 14. And then if you've got any questions about that too, I know, Lester indicated that, he and JJ would do what they could to try to get answers on the information in this part. Page 15 starts the statement of net position, and I think we've gone over this before, where the city presents their financial statements at the government-wide level, but also at a fund level. The fund level is your day-to-day operations. That's where the council is making decisions, but the government-wide level presents a more complete picture because it includes your capital assets and your debt. So that's on page 15. And so for the city, they had, for the year end, 9/30/2023, the total assets and deferred amounts on refunding were $280 million. Uh-oh.
Party.
I'm on page 15 now. But if I'm going too fast, you can tell me to slow down. Like most people, you know, if I get too ingrained in it, people start to get bored.
All right, so is it the 252,084,503, or am I looking at the wrong?
Okay, so that's total assets, and then deferred outflows of resources. Those are things that you're going to recognize as an expenditure in a future period.
Okay.
But they show up as part of, like if you're looking at a balance sheet, deferred outflows of resources and assets are offset by deferred inflows of resources and liabilities and equity. So the total of the two of those is 280, but it's made up of the 252 and the 27 million. So then we go down, and on the next page, we've got total liabilities of 240 million and deferred inflows of resources. Deferred inflows are things that are going to be recognized as revenues or income in a future period. So that's going to be related to, some of them are related to your pension. Some of them are related to like lease. If you have a lease receivable that's going to be more than 1 year, that's going to be right there. So that's 269 million. And then the city's net position is $10 million, which is an increase of $7.4 million over the prior year. And then some other things to note, the city did have a decrease in capital assets, which was on the page 15 of 3.6 million. That was, there was an addition of $7.3 million of capital assets, but then it was offset by depreciation expense. So an overall decrease of 3.6, and then the city's debt, the net change was a decrease of $7.1 million for the year. Page 17, this is the government-wide statement of activities. It's more in line with like an income statement, but it's at the government-wide level, so it's takes into account any capital asset related expenses like depreciation expense or you know, anything that would pertain to your debt, like interest expense for like accrued interest. So the city had total expenses of $89 million. Program revenues, that's like fees, fines, charges for services, operating grants and capital grants of $6.3 million, and then general revenues of $80.5 million. So that's going to be your sales tax and use tax and all of those things, property tax, for a total change in net position of $7.4 million increase. Page 18 is the balance sheet for the city, and this is where most of your budgetary decisions that you make are done at the fund level. So this is your fund level balance sheet. Total assets for the city for all of the funds for the year was $120 million. Total liabilities was $15 million. Deferred inflows of resources was 28, and then total fund balance was $77 million for the year. And of that, 31 million of it was for the general fund, and 16 million of that was unassigned. And then page 20 is your governmental funds income statement or statement and changes of revenues, expenditures, and change in fund balance. So the total revenues of the city for the year were 96 million. And then the total expenditures was 66.4 million. Total other financing uses was 21 million, and that was appropriations to the school board. But the total increase in fund balance for the city was $8.4 million for the year. And then, so 1.2 of that was for the general fund, and obviously 6.8 of that was for the debt service fund from transfers from the general fund. Starting on page 22 is the notes to the financial statement. So it basically gives a description of, here's, of the information that's in the financial statements, here's the accounting policies that we use to determine this information. All of those should be listed in note 1, and then you have a further breakout of like what were your additions to capital assets, what were your dispositions, what was your depreciation expense by function, which would be like general government, public safety, culture and recreation. So all of that information is found in the notes to financial statements. It's basically trying to give you a little bit more information about the numbers that are presented in the financial statements, so that you're not wondering, I wonder what they consider to be cash, or something like that. And then those go through the end of page 60, and then you have required supplementary information that's also in here. This also came into effect as a result of GASB 34 many, many years ago. And it's got your budget versus actual, and then it's got the assumptions about your other post-employment benefits and the retirement systems assumptions that they use when they're doing the actuarial valuation to tell you how much your net pension liability is. So that's the financial statements. Do you want, Lester?
I think he went to get Walter did he go to get you a copy? Oh, I thought that's where Lester went. I think that's where Lester went. Yeah, I think that's where he went. So he's.
Do you want this one, Walter? Okay, so next we have the single audit report. It's
That's
the-
like separate.
Mhm.
I'm not
It's the
sure.
next little packet. Do y'all have that one?
I'm not sure. I don't think that was in my box.
I know Lester has a box full of them. I saw him digging in it today.
Maybe you need to go get those.
It's the last time you have to worry about a large council.
I was about to say, does anybody have a funny joke they want to tell in the meantime?
Got a bunch of these. I do not have the other one.
Okay.
Does anybody else need them? This is the original. Yeah, I don't have that one.
Maybe he went to go grab them.
This packet just spiral down? No.
This
that's
little
small.
pack.
That one's small.
Yeah, this one's front and back.
Oh, I got you. Hey, Jenny, are the books in the mayor's conference room or anything? I can go fix them.
I think they were in Lester's office on top of his file cabinet.
Can we keep on going without?
Okay. All right, so the single audit reporting packet, this is something that we've issued separately in years past, but it basically is with respect to the city's financial their federal award programs. So if you expend over a certain amount of dollars in federal awards, you're required to have a single audit. The amount is $750,000, but they just increased it to $1 million. So any entity that expends that, any municipality that expends that, has to have a federal has to have a single audit. And basically, what that is back in the day, you used to have federal programs, and everybody wanted their program to be audited. Well, cities were like, we can't go in and audit all 12 of these programs, and so they passed a law where everything could be audited under one single audit. So we have to go in and say, okay, here's everything that was expended for federal funds, and we pick major programs and we test compliance over the compliance requirements of those major programs. So that's going to be this. I think Lester's got them now.
And this is like in reference to if we're doing like an ATRIC grant or anything where we're
Yes.
getting federal
Mhm.
funds, or like the ARPA money.
Yes, and a lot of people were not used to having that, because like if you're a small town,
You wouldn't be doing
you
that.
wouldn't be getting it. And so then when they would get the ARPA funding, they were like, we don't know what to do with it. Yeah, we don't know what to do. And, but see, even then, like they weren't used, I mean, they would track, they knew federal monies that they got. But as far as like compiling a list of it, you know, you would have to go ask the library director and say what federal, you know, like you had to kind of pull it all together. So, so we had the single audit, this year. We had one in 2022 as well, where we just had to look at a major, we have to choose major programs to look at to see if the city complies with the compliance requirements that are set forth in the uniform guidance. And as part of having a single audit, you have to also have a report on internal control over financial reporting and compliance in accordance with government auditing standards, which a lot of people are familiar with as the Yellow Book. So that's, both of these were performed in 2023, the single audit. So the first thing that we note in here is the report on internal control over financial reporting. We basically say that we considered internal controls, but we're not issuing an opinion on it. We are just considering the effectiveness of internal controls. And we reported, there's material weaknesses in internal control, which are, those are controls where there's either a failure of the internal controls or the controls are not in place, where there's a reasonable possibility that a material misstatement of the financial statements could occur. And then a significant deficiency is less than that, like less than a material amount, but still something that we would report saying that there's a deficiency in internal controls. So we reported 3 things that we consider to be material weaknesses and 1 that we consider to be a significant deficiency.
It's page 11, I guess, through 14.
Let me look. So in the actual report itself, it's the bottom of the first page has reference numbers. And so we say we consider the deficiencies in the accompanying schedule of findings and question costs to be material weaknesses. And then on page 4, the report on compliance and other matters. These are issues that we noted that we considered to be non-compliance, some of them with the internal, some over financial reporting, and then some of them over the federal awards programs. So then we go on to the next page, and this is the report that I was just talking about. The uniform guidance requires that we test the major programs, and that we look at any issues that we see that might represent non-compliance with major federal programs. So we indicated in here that we did look at the major programs that we selected, which is further in the back of this packet, and that the city complied in all material respects with compliance requirements that could have a direct and material effect on each major program. And then, so if you'll continue to page 9, this lists all of your federal awards for the year. So the city had $3.5 million in expenditures for federal awards during fiscal year 2023. And then we come over to the next page. And this has notes, just like the regular financial statements do, that describe policies related to this schedule of expenditures of federal awards. And then on page 11, we start our schedule of findings and question costs, which are referred to in those reports. So our financial statement findings, we had a material weakness that indicated that there was a lack of control over wire transfers, that we noted that the finance director is able to wire without getting a second approval, and that if the bank calls to verify an approval, the same person who authorized it is allowed to approve it. So we make, in each of these findings, we give, we give a criteria, a condition, cause and effect, a recommendation, and a view of responsible officials. So we went over all of these with JJ and with Lester and with the CRI team, when we had them, just so that we could make sure that there was a plan to kind of rectify them. Lack of control over the master vendor list. Usually if somebody goes into a system and creates a vendor, that has to be approved by somebody else as well. You don't want somebody to be able to go in there and make a vendor and then also authorize a payment to a vendor. Usually what will happen is somebody in the system would have to create the vendor, and that would have to be approved by somebody else before any payment could be initiated. Lack of adequate support for credit card purchases. We noted that there was a lack of adequate support, and some of this, I believe was reported also, I know it was also reported by the Department of Examiners. I don't know, we obviously made a recommendation that those controls be tightened, or that there, be some way to address, having that documentation before that, if there's no documentation, then it doesn't get paid. And then finding 2023-04, we said was a significant deficiency. That's timely filing of the state craft fee returns. Those are due once a month. And when we got out here, there were months that had not been filed. So you want to make sure that you timely file any reports to the state, and anything that you've collected from the taxpayers that needs to be remitted to the state in a timely fashion. And then, so those 4 findings that we just discussed, those were findings that related to financial reporting. And then next, these relate to compliance. We did note that there were transfers in excess of budgeted amounts. When we discussed this with Lester, typically, even if the city council it's your intent to go in and say, hey, if we have money over in the general fund, we're gonna move it into our debt service or our capital projects fund. Even if that is, your intent, actually formalizing, hey, we had X amount of dollars, we wanna move this over, and going in and doing a budget approval for that. And I think some of that comes from getting timely information, because if you don't get something for a couple of months, how are you going to approve that? So even maybe working on getting reports to you timely, so that y'all can approve transfers before they're actually done on the books. Investment non-compliance. This is something that that we've noted in the financial statement notes before. And something that has been part of our management letter, but the city holds investments that are not in compliance with state code, and then if you have a bad year, the taxpayers' dollars are subject to loss. And I think that's something that you guys are already aware of now too, and are addressing. And then the last 3 findings, these are findings that relate to the single audit. We did not note any material we spent money of federal dollars, but these are just some things that need to be considered. for your financial reporting. The first thing is that there is a timeline. You're supposed to submit your single audit by the end of the year. Like once you have your year end, you have 9 months. So really this should have been submitted by June 30th, but obviously circumstances arose that, you know, caused some delays, but, you know, still worth reporting. Okay, so there are also rules about checking for suspension and debarment if you have federal funds. And so basically, if you're gonna use ARPA funding, or if you've got A-TRIP monies that you're using for something, you're supposed to have a policy to go in and make sure that you're not paying federal dollars to someone who has been suspended or debarred. And there's a way to do it. Like you can go into the SAMHSA website and see if people that you're doing business with. We didn't see anybody that the city was doing, but there's supposed to be a policy in place to check for that, and there is not one. So like, you don't want to be like, okay, whew, we didn't do business with anyone when, you know, we got lucky. So just putting something into place for that. And really procurement for federal funding in general is a good policy to have. And then the last one was about the ARPA funding. There are reports that are required to be filed that indicate how much you have spent on your ARPA funds. When we got out here to do the audit, we noted that nothing had been submitted for the one in April of 2023. Nobody could find how to log into it or where it was or if it had been done. So just timely filing, you know, required reports for a single audit. And then we have, you know, the corrective action plan, obviously. We discussed this, and Lester and his crew are planning to go in more depth about what they're planning to do to rectify these findings, but those are listed in here. And then this single audit report is filed with the Federal Audit Clearinghouse. And I can show you how to see that, and if you're curious, everybody else is. So that I can tell you where to find that. And then of course your financial statements, because y'all have bonds, they are required to also be filed online, so I can show you where to look at those too, just to you know, see that information. Okay, Lester, did you print out the letter to those charged with governance? Yes. Oh, wait, this one.
Who's it?
He has a copy of this. This is stuff that we report for every audit.
This is all
Basically.
information that we had distributed as well as emailed out to everybody.
Okay, okay, so this one,
let me-
yeah.
Before we move to that, what I want everybody to understand is that all the information she went over, the financial statements, the single audit, and the finding is public information, right? Anybody can go out there and look at that. These findings, and correct me if I'm wrong, Jenny, they will stay open with the Federal Clearinghouse and with the federal government until they've been closed out. But even in the year that we put in a remediation plan, it will still be out there as an issue, right?
You have, yeah, so when you have items like this that come up, like we do have to do, like schedule prior audit findings, like we have to go back and say whether or not they were addressed, because the Federal Audit Clearinghouse wants to know, is this a repeat offense? Like does this continue to happen over and over and over, if it gets reported? So yes, that is accurate.
And if it continues to stay outstanding, then what it can do is it can impact any federal funding that the city may receive. Does everybody understand that? So we've got these issues here. We need to address these issues. As we've already said, the deadline for fiscal year ending September 30th, 2024 will be June 30th, 2025. Okay? So we can put a plan of action in place, but there is still going to be some activity that the finance department is going to need support from this council in order to make sure that we have the plans in place to remediate these issues, okay?
And I believe we already have on the agenda, the investment the investment issue, we're gonna get that taken care of. We've already done banking and credit cards. We're getting there, but it's, like you said, it's,
Right, we just need to make sure, especially with, everybody knows it's not a quick process, right? So especially to get everything before the council and then the committees and then back to the council. So we just need to be mindful of, okay, how much time do we have? And we can get, if not all of this, we can get the majority of this taken care of.
Yeah.
Okay?
by that June 30th day.
Yes, ma'am. Jenny?
So then we've got the, letter to those charged with governance. We do this on every audit, and basically just go over some, points that, from the audit to bring y'all up to speed on. So the first thing is significant audit matters. With respect to accounting practices, the city did have to implement GASB 96 during the year. It relates to subscription-based information technology agreements. And it basically is, well, it's very similar to GASB 87 leases, only it's with respect to, hey, if I have the right to use somebody's server for 5 years to store data, at the government-wide level, you have to recognize a right-of-use asset for that. And so, but the city, like many of the subscription-based agreements that the city had were older and the terms had run out on them. And I know, I talked to Brandon, he was like, we're working on IT stuff right now. I'm like trying to make sure that, we know what we need and when we need it to get some stuff upgraded. So it wouldn't surprise me if this is an impact, on some of the financial statements moving forward, but we didn't end up having to add anything for this year. Significant accounting estimates, those are gonna be your other post-employment benefits, which is your health insurance for retirees, and your net pension liability. Those are like anytime you have an actuarial valuation for something that's such a big number, that's subject to estimate, and it can change depending on the market or, changes in trends or inflation. Difficulties encountered with management during the audit. Obviously, this audit looked very different this year. We were, doing some planning, working with car rigs, and then, we reached out to JJ, and he kind of let us know what was going on. So we put our pencils down. We were like, okay, let's let this get, because obviously that was the priority at that time. So we did start late, but everybody that we asked for stuff, Kelly, Melanie, JJ, Lester, when he got here, car rigs, everybody was, Mike, very helpful in trying to help us get the information that we needed to get it done. So we didn't have any problems with anyone saying we're not gonna show you that. Corrected and uncorrected misstatements are attached to this letter. And so this is basically our audit adjustments that we made. And then some of them are year-end adjustments that car rigs provided to us after they had already given us a trial balance. So you have access to that. Disagreements with management, that's with respect to how to treat an audit or financial issue. We didn't have anybody coming in saying, we don't think we need to be doing XYZ for the financial statements. That was, contradictory to what we know about GAAP. We did require management to sign a management rep letter indicating that they had given us everything and that they had told us everything that they knew as of that date. We are not aware of any what some people call opinion shopping, where you go out to another accounting firm if you don't get an answer you like. We're not aware of any of that. And then the audit findings, we already went over, so that's basically described at the end. So that's our letter to those charged with governance. And then lastly, I'm so sorry, I've been talking forever. Sorry, y'all. Is our management letter, and this again pretty much mimics what we said in the single audit report. We did, in the letter say here are what our material weaknesses are, which was the control over wire transfers, the vendor list, and the supporting documentation for credit card purchases. We did have a significant deficiency, which was the craft training. And then we also said other matters, written policies. The city really needs to work on written policies, because it's really easy for someone to say, well, I thought I could do it, because there's nothing in here that says we can't do that. So having written policies that define restrictions on purchases, and that comply with grant agreements. And then, well, this is, the city doesn't have a policy for determining value of, contributed capital assets, which would be, you know, if somebody donates a fire truck, I mean, not, usually y'all probably are the ones donating the fire trucks to other people, but, and then we noted the budget, like trying to get the operating transfers approved before it's made in the system, and the investments. So that's really all I've got. And you probably noticed I could talk about this all the time. So if you guys have any questions, please feel free to reach out to me. Do y'all have anything? Lester, do you have anything to add?
No, I think that, you know, the thing to keep in mind here is that when we talk about internal controls, we could draft policies all day long, right? All policies are words on a sheet of paper, right? So what we know between the state examiner's report as well as the findings that have been submitted with a single audit is there is some overlap there, right? But what we've got to understand is we've got to understand how systemic is this? Is this we had one or two bad characters? Or is what happened here a situation where your control environment, right? The control environment is where your parameters or your barrier is built. And it houses the expectations. And this is what we all refer to as tone at the top, right? This is where the individuals that work within the administration here understand what is allowable and what is not allowable. What is expected from a behavior standpoint. So a lot of times what happens in an organization is it's a slow fade, right? You can have a situation where there's maybe not as much control at the top, right? Let's say from the executive branch. So as a result, what happens without that direction, without that oversight, it leaves a lot of the choice making amongst the staff. And that's where all of a sudden that slow fade can come. So I think that what we want to do is it'll be very beneficial for us to sit down and try to understand what are all the driving forces here. If you have these items as it relates to a single finding and items relative to the examiner's report, that's a sample, right? So the larger your sample with errors, then there's a possibility, I'm not saying there is, but there's a possibility that there could even be more issues. So it's great, we know what these are easy, we can fix these. What we have to do going forward though is we're gonna have to make sure that if there are policies in place, does everybody understand those policies, right? Are they following them? So this is where it's gonna be a re-education process. And just letting everybody understand that this policy is in place and this is the expectation going forward and this is the accountability as a result of that. Does that make sense?
Now, will we be doing this going forward every year, or is this?
Yes, sir.
Is this a finite?
No, sir.
You know, we get slapped on the wrist. You know,
It's-
pay the
Well, I mean, I
piper.
assume y'all are gonna be back for the 24, like you said, in March.
Mhm.
Yeah, yeah.
Mhm.
Right, so we'll be doing this for 24 in March.
So we've had, I do have one quick question. How long have y'all been doing our tax, or our audit for us? How many years?
6.
6. If I remember correctly, I know we've had $750,000 in federal funds prior to 2023, correct? So
Yes.
how did we not disclose in those audits these findings that are on here, because it was the same crew of characters running finance then?
Okay. Lester, did you want to speak to that?
Well, that's a broad question. What I do have here, and so this is communication, right? And what everybody, and even when we had this talk, Mike and I and JJ, so there's a requirement that when an audit is complete, there has to be a reporting of that audit to the council. And the whole purpose of that is so that it gets incorporated into the minutes, right? And what y'all wanna know is you just don't wanna know the good stuff. You wanna know if there's anything bad happening,
Exactly.
right? Now, there was, cause I went out and I looked just to check, I did go back, there was a management letter comment for the year ending September 30th, 2022. But, you know, the difficult part here is an audit, and they're the experts. I've been out of audit for a long time. But an audit is not designed to uncover fraud. Just not gonna do it. It's designed that if they catch fraud, that it'll be reported. Am I saying that right, in accordance with the standards? So a lot of times it's difficult, especially if there's opportunity for collusion, or if there's opportunity for management to override controls, right? And so I don't know if some of this stuff that has been uncovered this year, that was or 2023, if that was one of those things that as a result of, once this got out, the forensic audit that was being done by outside third party, if that's how a lot of this other stuff came to fruition. That's why it's so critical that there has to be oversight over these financial statements. One of the things that Jenny touched on, and I'll check and see if you have that report, but at the end of the audit, you always want to know how many journal entries were done. That's your cleanup, right? If there's a lot of journal entries, then what that means is that's a good indication that the monthly information you were getting
Wasn't good.
is not accurate, right? So, you know, when we look at this, I think that there are some things that we can uncover in the future, and I think there's gonna be some things that will still go under the radar. That's why it's so imperative to make sure that the internal controls we have in place are the best that we can put in place, given the size of staff we have, to uncover any of these issues. I know that's probably not the answer you want. I think that what we can do going forward, though, is we can do a better job.
Yeah, we certainly can. I was just curious to the effect. I mean, I understand that fraud is hard to catch, especially when there's collusion occurring. But with 8 different controls that all of a sudden popped up in this report and have not really been here in a substantial, you know, written note, it just kind of caught me off guard. So I was curious as to why we had not seen this prior to 2023 reporting.
I do know for 2022, you've got the written policies, the reconciliation, the investments, and bid law. I'm not sure what the bid law was, but yeah.
So additionally, why was this one late? Was it related to
The fraud.
the fraud investigation? Okay.
Yes.
Yeah.
All right.
There is also, like, I think people think that when you're getting an audit, like people think that when you're getting an audit that somebody's coming out there and doing what the Department of Examiners did. Like, they think they're coming in and they're looking for every penny. And for us, like, that's not what we design our audit procedures to do. What we're trying to do is are these numbers that you're showing us, do we agree materially? So some of the things that, you know, like where the Department of Examiners, if they see a penny, they're gonna test it, you know, but for us, like from a material purpose, like if I'm designing my test work and I see a penny, I can't go test every single penny. But so like doing the financial statements and like considering the internal controls, and again, like Lester said, like, you know, looking at, oh, we've got all of these, like, are they actually operating, or do people understand what they're supposed to do? Unfortunately, a lot of things came to attention of everyone during fiscal year 24 about stuff that happened in 2023 and 2024 that brought to light issues that could have been there previously.
And I'll say this, the finance department's supposed to be your watchdog, right? If you put a fox in charge of the hen house, so to speak, that's why you've got to make sure that whoever you put in that role has the skill set necessary to perform that job.
Yeah.
And then y'all have to watch them like a hawk.
And my last question, and I'll be quiet, sorry,
No, that's
I'm
fine.
asking
No,
lots.
no.
You've made the statement multiple times, either came out or got out here. So do y'all actually come on prem to do the audit? You do? Okay.
We were here today.
Okay,
Yeah.
excellent. And so you were also here in previous years prior to 2023?
Usually we sit in that conference room. Then for the fiscal year 2023, we were remote until we realized that we needed to get more information. So we'll sit in the conference room, but we work on we use our software. We didn't gain access to Encode or Laserfish until fiscal year 2023 audit. We were told it was not possible, and then we talked to Car Rigs about it, and they were like, let us see what we can do.
I'm surprised you were able to work in that conference room.
Looks better now, doesn't it?
It does.
The eBay store is what, yeah. Yeah, so we worked in there, and then, when we were, I guess, Car Rigs was out here doing work, and Mike was like, you guys just go ahead and come on. So we came back out in September, and then we've been out here, this is our third week this time.
The field work started this year, January 21st, and one of the things, I like them on site.
For 2020, that's why I asked the question.
For
Yeah.
2024, correct. So
Yeah,
they need
our
to be here,
preference is to
they
be
need
here.
to, they need to be able to see. I also like it from the standpoint that if information is needed, there's not emails going back and forth. You can get up, you can walk over, and you can ask for the information. I think that allows to expedite the completion of the audit. But, yeah.
And do we keep records and logs of when they're here and how long they're here?
I don't know. We
Okay.
normally don't.
Okay.
That's not a normal practice.
Just curious.
Now,
They do.
They do.
Billable hours.
Yeah, they're billing it.
now, what I do is I know if they're not here,
Yeah.
and I'll ask, just like today, what percentage completion are we?
Yeah.
What'd you say, 46%, I
Yeah,
think?
we
right
went ahead and set up this year, with Lester, we have a weekly check-in just to kind of go over audit progress.
It's easy, just the nature of the beast, so to speak. It's easy that if the auditors are not here, for you to get lost in your daily work, right? So there's gotta be a focus, right? What gets measured is what gets accomplished. So, if they're out here, they're out here, and they're asking for information, it kind of accelerates that process. So hopefully we'll see how it goes this year. We are planning for a completion date of around March 31st. So that'll give us about three months to get everything submitted up to the clearinghouse.
And that will include all the new credit card policies, new investment people when that happens, new banking policies, new controls, yeah.
Thank you.
All right,
Thank you, y'all.
Thank you.
I believe the appropriate motion is to accept, the report.
I'll make that motion to accept the audit report from BMSS.
All right, motion from Mr. Harden,
Second.
second from Mr. Grant. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
4-0. Thank y'all. Okay, all right, let's go back up to the top. 13-10-24, request for consideration of creating a Homewood beautification plan, Homewood Beautification Board, carried over from our last meeting. We have members of the beautification board here. We have 3 proposals. And then we received an email from, the chair of the board, Mary Michael, today, with their recommendation. As we have said throughout this process, the council actually is gonna make the choice. But we do appreciate, of course, y'all's input. Brian, can you?
Which ones?
It's the three.
No, which one do you want first?
I guess, let's go in alphabetical order, so GMC, I guess.
That is GMC's, yes.
Yeah, okay. What are the blue
Yeah.
circles?
If it's okay,
My eyes are-
Counselor Smith, I can kinda
Yeah,
give
yeah.
an overview.
Yeah, that'd be great.
So this is GMC's proposal that they submitted, in response to the beautification board. They just kinda started here with a little bit of background of projects they've worked with the city on, and this map you're looking at is just kind of like the city's, boundary with some identified gateways that they would focus, some of the efforts around beautification on. It's some guidance and a concept map they previously had provided the beautification board, and that they would expand upon, and focus if they move forward. The next page, Brian, just kind of shows, like their team, and if you maybe just zoom in on like task 1, 2, 3, 4, Brian, they just kind of talk through like their approach to developing a beautification plan. They would do some, site analysis, collect data from stakeholders and members of the community, develop a concept plan supported with sketches and potential conceptual images of key projects, prioritize that, and then present the draft plan to the city. And then, after feedback to the draft plan, they would submit it to the board and the city for approval. So that's kind of their submission. They also did meet with the beautification board and provide some additional information.
Okay, all right, Brian, we can go on to the, Loper Bomb.
And then Sophie's
Or I guess
going
Kelly.
alphabetical.
I
Yep.
guess Kelly would be
Yep,
next.
that's
sorry.
right. So this is Chuck Kelly with Kelly Landscape, who submitted interest as well. Similar situation where he provided some background on his connection to the city with various related projects, and also set forth his credentials and experience. You can go through the next page, Brian. And then here he talked about, again, some of the same stuff. Some of his credentials, keep going. I think he has several so visuals of plans he's worked with in the city, including Central Park, Green Springs. Keep going. Yeah, and Vulcan Trail, so not in the tangential. Keep going, and so these were just submitted on as like examples of what could result as like key focal projects that come from a beautification plan.
Okay.
Is that the entire PDF?
Yes, it was.
Okay.
All
Thanks.
right, and then you can do the Loper Bomb.
Yes, and then so the first two firms the beautification board had met with prior to September. Then this became a budgeted item. Then this the council also kind of reopened interest for submissions, and that's when this third proposal came forth. It starts with similar information on the firm's background and credentials, as well as projects worked on in the city. And then Brian, I think it's
I'm getting there. Sorry.
Okay.
It just went away on me.
pages 9 through 11. Once you get there, though, they really lay out kind of like their different focuses of the work plan, and talk about starting with go back up one more, Brian, to 9. There you go. Scope of services. So talking about schematic design and programming. So working again with the public and private stakeholders to come up with what the beautification plan would focus on, and you can read it for yourself. I mean, and they just go through the different scope, the full scope of services. Now you can go to the next one, Brian. So this really came from the beautification board looking for a way to pull together the projects they're doing, the projects environmental commission's doing, ongoing maintenance with the city, looking for a consistent landscaping philosophy throughout the city. Also focused on maintenance, making sure that there was not only a stormwater focus in landscape inclusion in projects, but also a low cost maintenance theme as well, so that you weren't getting plants that you had to replace every couple of seasons or a couple times a year.
Brian, can you show some pictures from the Lower Bob McNair?
Yeah.
I know he had some illustrations of some of the work that they've done.
Yeah, and all these have been sent out via email. Sorry, this was the high level view. Please go to anything specific you'd like. Yeah.
And I'll mention that Councilor Gwaltney and I and Councilor Taines at the time met with Lower Bob McNair prior to COVID to talk about, doing some landscaping, at the plaza.
Which I believe that first image is what that was. wasn't
Yes,
it?
correct, and so they had done a conceptual there, and then we just kind of COVID, and then the plaza became its own thing, which is great, is amazing, so it's really what we wanted it to do, so, anyway, so we had started those conversations with them back in 2019.
So what do you need from us, Nick? I mean, from the finance
We've
committee?
got to decide we've got to decide of the three.
Oh, we choose the three, okay.
Yeah, so yes, that is our task, is to choose
Wonderful.
amongst the three. And I will say, I think all three of them are very good, and I certainly appreciate the beautification board input on their thinking. I am of the mind that when you do a lot of projects with the same group, sometimes it's nice to mix things up, and it's nice to have new people involved, some kind of new ideas and kind of different perspectives. Also, sometimes I think it's nice to work with maybe a smaller group. I know Chuck has done a ton of work with the parks. Berkeley's not still here, but he essentially designed Patriot Park, which is one of our, I think, beautiful parks. And I think there's a lot of options that we should probably keep in mind, and not necessarily just go with the first people who submitted. That's my general opinion. Does anybody else?
Yeah, I guess when I looked at the number of projects that Kelly Landscape had done, seemed like even more than Lauterbach, of just different municipal type projects that to me had a deep resume. I know Goodwin Mills also has that, but I thought he did a pretty good job of that. I mean, there's not been any, it's a little hard for us because there's not been any set of criteria of how to choose who's best, right? There wasn't any criteria that the beautification board put up, so we're just kind of having to a little bit do it in a vacuum. But I've known him a long time, but he actually helped us when my son did the
The volleyball court.
He came out physically on site and really helped a lot, actually. But anyway, I thought the work that Lauterbach did on our plaza was really pretty good. But
Well, and I will say, I'm just, I think, again, I think all three of them are highly qualified and very good.
Yeah.
But I will say, after looking through all three of them today, I really like the look of what they've done at Lauterbach and, what's his last name? McNair. Gosh, I don't know, my brain was having a blitz. Anyway, I like the look of the things they've done over at, Little Professor and the Battery, the Edge. I think all of those things look there's a certain look that's very elevated that I do appreciate. And again, I just think sometimes it's nice to mix things up a little bit. Anybody else?
I mean, I agree, it's good to mix them up. We do the same thing with engineering services on the regular, not necessarily what Kale's working on specifically, but whenever we work on CMAQ grants and such, we try to make sure that we're not going down the same road. So I know we've used different engineers on the regular there. We just finished up the Lakeshore Trail, and that was GMC, correct? Yeah. I would be fine with LMA or Kelly. LMA has not worked in the city, to my knowledge, since I've been here for 9 years, so.
Not for us. They've worked in the city. They just
Well, I
haven't
meant
worked
like
for the
work
city.
for the city itself
Yeah,
in
yeah,
9 years.
Yes.
Nick,
So-
to clarify, good question. So none of these three firms, there's nothing for them to bid or anything. We're just choosing one of the three to give us a conceptual design of going forward next, whatever.
I think
That's
Just
correct. This is a professional service, so, there's no
So,
open bid,
well, let's just-
and they're doing a plan that will lead to future specific projects that are possibly constructed or implemented, but they're doing the citywide
And
plan.
historically, Chuck, I know, he's basically done most of the park, so we know what that's like.
Yeah.
Goodwood Mills and Kaywood's done most of our school stuff, correct?
They've done a lot of
A lot.
They've done a
They
lot
did
of
So-
stuff.
18th Street.
They did 18th
And
Street.
then Louder's done some of this other stuff that's,
Yeah.
they're all very good.
Like I said.
Does the beautification group have any say so?
They-
on the
they've already-
three?
they've already- they sent an
Anyway,
email.
we have
They
the three.
did.
You're bringing us your top three.
Yeah.
Glad
Okay.
to read the email that our chairman summarized the feedback for you all, if you'd like for me to read it.
Yes, real quick, if it's quick.
Yeah, go ahead.
And this is
Okay,
Nan-
this is
Miss
an email.
Nancy.
What?
Do you need her name for the record? I got it.
He's got it.
I think Bo knows me. The Beautification Board Subcommittee working on the Homewood Master Beautification Plan are in unanimous agreement regarding our opinion that the strongest, most flexible, and impressive proposal submitted for the Master Beautification Plan creation was Goodwin Mills Kaywood. Not only did GMC present a thoroughly thought-out plan, but it offered long-range opportunities to create toolkits for staged and sustainable implementation, taking into account things like city budgets and personnel needed for such implementation. And it was the most thorough in scope and scale. It is also worth noting that Jane Reed Ross of GMC has also recently been inducted into the highest honor society among landscape architects. I think that's the Fellows of the American Landscape Architects Society, or the American Society of Landscape Architects.
We love Jane. So that is, and I say again, I think all three are fantastic, and I appreciate the input from the beautification board, but I do think sometimes it's good to change things up. But that's just my opinion. I'm not the one who's, I can't make a motion, so.
I'll make a motion for LMA.
Okay, I have a motion to accept the proposal, I guess, from Leverbond McNair Associates, and I have, that motion came from Mr. Gwaltney and a second from Mr. Harden. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Anyone disagree? Okay. All right, that's 4-0, so that will be going out to council on Monday night. All right. All right. Wow. Long meeting. Okay, I can go ahead and say 14/11/24. Piggly Wiggly folks are not here. They say they'll be ready for us on the 17th, so I'm carrying that one over without objection. That leaves us with 01/12/24, request for consideration to modify the council mayor salaries from 2025 to 2029 term, coming to us from councilors Anderson and Alon. Obviously Carlos is not here tonight, so Ms. Andrus, why don't you speak to it since you are one of the item people.
Yeah, so, again, we did a little bit of benchmarking with our neighbors. Obviously Mountain Brook, they do not have any, they don't get any salary at all. Hoover and Trussville are in the 7,500 a year range. And, what'd you tell me Alabaster was?
Alabaster's at 13,000.
13,000. The main thing, we're shrinking down the council, A. B, I wanna make sure that the mayor's salary comes down, because we will have a full-time executive in place as a city manager. So we will be saving the city money net. And so with that, I will turn it over to the finance committee for discussion. But I just wanna see some, inflationary or some sort of measure to bring the 1984 number in line, and I wanna see the mayor's salary come down as a reflection of what future duties are gonna look like.
And the vehicle allowance.
And the vehicle allowance gone.
Yes.
Did you say that the Trustful and
Trustful and
Hoover,
Vestavia.
They were
are-
about 7,500.
7,500 a year?
A year, yeah, a year.
$625 a month.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I did math,
No, I'm sorry, I had that wrong, I'm sorry. Vestavia is 7,200 a year, Hoover is 7,500 a year, my bad. Trustful is 12,000 a year.
oh yeah, but so
Sorry.
Trustful is more in line
Trustful's
with
more.
Alabaster, because
Sorry.
Alabaster's
I
13,000.
had that wrong, I'm sorry.
And if I could, so to clarify, all this would go active,
The next term.
For the next term, not
Correct,
for
not
us.
this term.
and I know y'all have done a lot of work on all this. I'm just gonna put it out there for public record. I'm for no pay for city council. But I want this to come out of committee. I want to go to the full board.
I agree.
I don't know what the correct
Yeah,
motion is, but.
well, I mean, we've gotta figure out what those numbers are.
I'm pretty much gonna vote.
Yeah, you would not vote for it in council, but you want it to get out to committee so
That's
that the
correct.
other members of the
Yes.
council can vote, which which we greatly
Because you
appreciate.
could only do this one time
Yes.
in this term.
It hadn't
Only
been
this
done
one
since
time.
1984.
Well,
Right.
correct.
Yes.
It has not.
And I'll dovetail, y'all know my position, I'm not
We
gonna,
do.
I'm not gonna repeat it.
We do.
My neighbor, she sits and watches while she works, she watches all of our videos, and which is impressive, every week. And she actually caught me in the yard last Friday afternoon. What?
Where does she work?
We'll keep her
Not,
anonymity.
we're gonna keep, yeah, we're gonna keep
But
that on the.
she
keep
made
that
the
on
comment to me, she's like, why do you not wanna pay the council a salary? She's like, y'all work so hard. I was like, I just think that it's a service to the city, and you know, you do it out of duty to your neighbors. And she's like, well, I disagree. She's like, I think y'all should be paid. She's like, and the fact that y'all haven't been paid, changed in, since 1983. I was like, wow, you really listened. So I will say, I would prefer 0. I could be on board with a slight inflationary increase, but not beyond $7,000 or maybe $7,500 to match the cities around us. But I would prefer 0.
Okay, I know you.
And let me and I'm going to speak to that point. You may have somebody in our community who needs financial support to have childcare. We work a lot of hours, and Monday nights, we haven't even got through the finance yet. Is that they may have a babysitter that they need to pay.
I understand.
There are people that,
But
may
Andrew and I
need.
bring our children up here all the
But
time.
also to that point, with the new city government formation, I don't think we're going, city council person's gonna have that many hours.
Yeah.
I do not want to
That y'all have done tirelessly and thanklessly for
I
years.
do not want
I'll be
to
here
just-
Saturday.
I
I'll
do
just
not
want
want
you to
to,
know
to preclude anyone who wants to serve
Right.
but is held back for financial reasons not to serve. That's
And
all.
I do think, I mean, and I will say, I know this because I've been working on, a project in Mountain Brook. The Mountain Brook, system has been in place since 1942, when their first mayor, Charles Zukowski, put that into place. He's the same person who brought the city manager into their city prior to that form of government existing in the state of Alabama. Mountain Brook was the first, and so he was also the one who made it so that is a 1942 situation, which is not necessarily of today's times. I appreciate it, and I think the people who serve there are amazing for serving. We certainly, none of us do this for the money, that is obvious, but I do understand people's having a different opinion. Yeah.
Mike, I mean, going forward, I mean, with the new city government, if the new city council, they could vote to change this.
No.
No.
Not, no,
That's
that's the problem. You
that's
can
the
only
problem.
do this at very specific
Once
times.
every term.
Yeah.
And the council can't vote on their own salary.
We
Right.
can't raise our own
So
salary.
we're paying it forward. to
Yes,
the next-
we're trying to pay it forward to next
To
people,
next
and I will say, I've done a little bit of math.
And this council has to do it at least 6 months before the next one.
Yeah, so that's why we have to pass this in February, because it is by law.
If a city councilor doesn't believe in getting a salary, can they leave it with the city?
Sure, as long as they pay taxes.
Can I address
Okay.
one thing? We need some type of, we have over the years counselors who didn't believe they wanted to take a salary, and they gave it to a local Homewood charity. And if that's kinda how you feel, that's a solution. But you really we need to be in line with the other cities. We want to at least, be able to pay for fuel where you're going to see constituents and coming back and forth, so I think we need to be reasonable, but if you don't want to get paid, you can.
I just don't ever want somebody to say I made a decision because I'm getting paid X amount.
Yeah, no, I completely get
I
it.
want to be
I
beyond
got it, I
reproach.
got it.
Expenses,
I'd like to make a motion that we pay $625 a month.
That gets us to
For that, and for the mayor, do I need to make that the same motion?
Well, Mike, would it be easier to have that as one motion or two? Does it matter?
It doesn't matter, it's typically in the same ordinance, but we can do it. if
Okay,
we want
no,
to.
we can do it. We can do it
You can
together.
express it annually or monthly. That's
Okay.
what you
We
say.
haven't talked about the mayor. He's getting paid.
35.
Mayor, how much you losing every month?
Right now, they make 32.
Right now, yeah.
32 with a
That needs to
vehicle
come
allowance.
Way down.
So I was thinking 15, I don't know, whatever, is anybody else?
Well, I would say if we're only cutting the mayors in half, and they're doing way less than half the work, but we're only raising the council 225, that doesn't make sense to me, math-wise,
Okay.
to be honest. Yes.
Counselor Smith, I know that when we first started this discussion maybe 6 weeks ago, there were some numbers presented on what the actual inflation adjusted.
It's 12,000.
12,000,
Yes.
okay,
If you
so
just-
that's
if you go
generically
straight,
12,000 for
yes.
council, and what was the adjustment, or what was the recommended?
Well, I don't think.
There
that's-
wasn't, 'cause it was a
right,
different
because it's a
position.
totally
Okay,
different
thank you.
position, yeah, we did.
15,000 for the mayor, what?
I don't, did we have a recommendation for the mayor? I don't remember seeing that, I just remember the 12,000.
The mayor, because the duties changing so dramatically.
Yeah, and for that matter, I think the mayor should get a decent salary, because they're kissing babies, cutting ribbons, going to mayor, stuff all over the country, and,
Well, and I will say, so I did math today, and I just did it I just basically, instead of doing 12,000, cause I knew everybody wasn't on board with that, I just did, I basically doubled it from 400 to 800. And if you do 800,
You mean double
Are you back
the
to
city,
council?
the city council presidents?
Well, no, for the city council members, cause we make 400 right now. I basically I knew that people weren't on board with going to the 12,000, so I took 800 a month and did it times 4 times 12, that works out to 38.4, which is about not quite $14,000 less than what we get paid currently at $400 for 11, cause for 400 for 11, it's
Right.
like 48,000.
She's talking about.
48,
She's talking about total.
total.
Yes, I'm trying to do a
Oh,
total amount for
okay.
Because we're gonna
everybody.
save the city.
Right,
You're
so,
moving fast on me, I'm
sorry.
slow.
sorry, so
Speak a- get
it's
it.
actually about $10,000 difference. So right now, what we're making annually in total, just the council members, not the council president, is $48,000. And you make $500 a month? 5 a month. So his adds, whatever that adds, on top, 60, yeah, so that adds onto that. So if you doubled the salaries for the 4 council people to 800 from 400, that would be 38.4, which is gonna be it's gonna be more than $10,000 less aggregate than what we
Right,
made.
right.
But then you do have to factor in what we decide to pay the mayor.
But
if
we
you-
have a motion on the table of 70, I didn't get 75,
Yeah,
and
it
you're
didn't- it didn't-
doing 8,000?
I just did this, today. We didn't get a second for that motion, so
Okay.
I'm just saying, I was throwing out some different numbers.
Hold on, he was
Yeah.
working through the mayor's salaries.
Yeah,
That's
yeah.
why he
Yeah,
got
yeah,
the
yeah.
second.
I haven't finished my motion yet.
Okay, yeah,
So I make a motion to pay the city councilors $625 a month and the mayor $15,000 a year. I make it shot
We
down.
need both of them to be annually or monthly.
I'm
Yeah,
sorry,
you can't do 'em both.
7,500 and 15,000, I apologize.
okay.
All right?
Alright, there's a motion on the table.
I gotta get
So
this.
what is the motion?
The motion is for $7,500 annually for the 4 council members and $15,000 for the mayor / council president.
Okay.
Now,
Thank
can
you.
we have, we didn't have a second. so
We
have
do not have a
discussion?
second.
I think we have the discussion after the second.
You guys make a
We're
second
not
to
getting
get a
a second,
second.
so.
I'll second it.
Okay,
I would encourage, before we make a commitment, I would encourage lowering the mayor's salary.
Okay.
I
I'm
think
just
that-
thinking about when he's talking about them driving
Yeah,
everywhere,
man.
putting miles on their car, but, yeah, and we're not
We
having.
get mileage. We
Okay.
get mileage reimbursement. I mean, don't we have mileage reimbursement? We go to Montgomery, don't we get mileage? I mean, if you submit it.
if you
mean,
submit,
I'm
I never
not-
do.
I don't either,
I never
That's a
have.
good point, though, I'm sorry, I'm not on the
You
committee,
need to
but
spell out of
if
this
we are
ordinance
taking out,
Whatever benefits are to be paid.
Yeah.
if we are taking out the car allowance as well, that was an additional benefit. And I don't know how much driving around, but they will, I mean, it's hard to keep up with all those miles and everything to submit.
I wouldn't worry about the driving thing.
yeah,
Well,
I think the driving.
Well,
Like
well,
I
I
went
haven't
to-
finished my thought either. I mean, I think that there's a lot of responsibility that goes along with council president and mayor as a combined job, as a combined responsibility. Hopefully there'll be a lot more strategic planning. Yeah, hopefully there'll be a lot different, this body will act a lot differently and meet off-site for planning more and, I think at least 15,000 would be my opinion. I'm not on the council, on the committee, but I'm for at least that much.
Look, I'm not speaking to the amount, that's up to y'all. All I was gonna offer is my perspective about the driving, since that came up. Most of the driving that is local, it's not.
It's the same driving we do.
Yeah, I mean, like, I went to Vestavia today to be on a panel, at lunch, it's stuff like that. There's.
If there was a benefit of a car that is being.
No, he doesn't have a car.
He doesn't
Right.
have a car.
No, but I mean.
Prior to me, yes,
Yes,
there,
prior.
there was a city vehicle that was allotted to the mayor that I did
But
away
again,
with.
that person was a part-time employee as opposed to somebody who is here essentially, cause the mayor now is not gonna be in the office. And Alex, I am not incorrect, that the mayor's office will not really be the mayor's office. That will be the city manager's office,
What, that
correct?
physical office down
The
there?
physical office space, right?
Yes, that'll be the city manager.
Yeah.
Okay, so we got a lot of information about the salaries of the counselors, and did I miss the salary of the mayors of these cities? Were they in?
The mayor of Mountain Brook is the only one I know, and he doesn't get paid.
He doesn't get paid.
Betty Choate makes 82,000 from, in Trustful.
The Trustful mayor
The
makes
He's
ones,
full-time.
the
He's
ones,
full-time.
the ones that have,
Well, Ashley Curry is really the only, because they're the only city that has a similar system to this. And, I mean, I can text,
I was thinking that y'all
Kimberly
had
and ask her
reported
what
that
this-
before, but.
we can ask what
I've
Ashley
got the
makes.
Stadia's budget somewhere
Okay.
already saved.
Cause he's really the only comparable person, cause like in Trustful, he's full-time, even though, and their system is very different from ours. And, Alabaster's the same, their mayor's part-time, but he's more part-time like Alex is part-time, he's not the president of the council,
But they will be meeting closely with city manager, I would think.
I mean,
And, I mean.
with the council, yeah, the city manager's gonna
The
meet with
whole- it's
the
kind of
whole
a working
working
body.
Yeah, yeah. It's not gonna be like individual meetings with just the mayor. I mean, there may be some times when that happens, but I think the city manager is gonna be reporting to the, and by the way, I don't know if I mentioned, because while we're trying to figure this out, we've got Dave Strahl here.
Hey, Dave.
He's probably thinking, and I'm gonna run away. Dave Strahl is one of our city manager candidates who is in town today. He has had a busy day already, visiting lots of different department heads and departments and going to a department head meeting and now sitting in with our committees, but I thought I would just.
It's a very long night.
Yes, it's a very long night. I'm just shouting him out to let y'all know who that is. As he sits patiently over there. Did you find it? No? Okay. We can find out what Ashley makes, but.
So Harden, let's go with it.
We get a motion in a second. so
All right.
Motion in a second.
technically
Got a motion for a
Let's-
second.
Let's go to full board with what we have.
Okay, all right, and then, I mean, listen, we can always discuss and adjust. Okay,
Oh, wait.
all right, so we have a motion for $7,500 annually for the 4 council
Counselor.
members and $15,000 for the mayor/council president. All in favor on the committee, say.
I need to ask a question.
Yes, please.
The law provides for all city officials and employees to also be reimbursed actual expenses. Do you want to include that or not?
Sure.
Absolutely.
I mean, I never do, but sure.
I've never done that either.
Never done it.
But yes, if there's an out-of-state or something, or
Yeah,
continuing
yeah.
education for the
Conference.
mayor.
Right, of course.
I think
Absolutely.
that's-
Yes, okay. All right, so we have.
And I would say if they wanna get reimbursed the IRS mileage.
I think that would be an expense.
Yeah, that's.
That would be included in what Mike said.
Yeah,
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 okay.
that would be factored into that. Okay. All in favor for that motion, 7,500, 15,000, please say aye.
Aye.
All right, holy moly.
And for the record, the mayor of Vestavia makes 15,000, mayor/council president, and the council actually makes 7,200 based on last year's budget.
Okay, all right.
Yeah.
Yeah, yes.
Oh, I thought it was 75.
All right, so that's,
No,
okay.
Sorry, I wrote down 7,500.
So, all right,
Hoover is 7,500.
Yeah. all right, so, got it.
We done with this?
Yes, we are done with this, and dear heavenly
Going out
Lord.
to
And with that,
Thank you.
we are adjourned, and I apologize. I promise this is not an indicator of how the meeting is gonna go. Yes, yes.
We'll need a
Would you
W-9
please-
and a vendor form.
Yes, and I can get that from David. He started working on the project, and so they just never approved it because they were doing the.
I'm ready.
plan.
Whenever you are. Let's do
So
it.
yes,
Brian,
send
you
that to me.
okay?
I'll get it to him. We'll get it back to you. Okay. Thank you, Melanie.
Public Works Committee meeting for February 3rd, 2025. Counselor Wolverton.
Here.
Gear.
Here.
Sims.
Here.
Nelms.
Out.
And Harden.
Here.
Got 4.
All right. We have 5. Can I have a motion to dispense the reading and approval of the
So moved.
minutes from January 27th? Motion by Counselor Sims, second by Counselor Gear. You got beat, John. Did you hear that, Bo?
Yes.
Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Nay. All right, sorry, that was 4-0. Moving on to new business 2101-25, request for consideration to work in the right of way to remove concrete and install sod. I don't have an address.
833 Forest Drive.
Okay. At 833 Forest Drive.
833 Forest Drive.
Yeah.
Ms. Hunt is here if you want to ask her questions. You can see the issue. You want to talk about what you'd like to do?
I just want to put a curb and some grass because it's turned in to the neighborhood dump. Everybody is bringing all their trash and everything. And my neighbors are complaining. I mean, you know, that's every week.
And that's just a leftover driveway from some previous.
And I've lived in that house 62 years.
Oh, wow. Huh. All right.
Yeah, that's an old curb cut that was never used, and so as you can see, it's just superfluous. So we propose to have a curb put there
and grass. Yes. To get rid of it and hope they don't continue.
I got you. All right.
Thank you.
I'll make a motion to approve that.
All right, we have a motion by Counselor Harden and a second by Counselor Gear for approval pending the proper indemnification agreement. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, that's 4-0. And then we have 2201-25, request for permission to install 2 directional signs on the right of way for Miss Sims' garden. Miss Milam, I saw you somewhere.
I know y'all know me.
Wise,
long.
yes.
It's been Wise since 2021.
That's totally my fault. Yeah, I can't ever get past not know about you when I talk about you. It's always my fault.
Yeah.
So scroll down a little, Brian. So this is the kind of sign that we're proposing, that Amy has proposed that we put up on existing street sign poles. So Randy would print this and install them at these 2 locations marked in red, Highland and St. Charles, and Oxmoor and St. Charles.
Well, if the city's gonna install them, there's nothing needed.
For street signs, I thought that there would be a resolution needed.
No,
Nope.
it's directional sign.
Directional signs.
Well, there is an arrow on it.
It's a directional sign.
So there's no action.
It's not like
needed
a,
here?
it's not
Ah,
a sign, it's not
okay.
a sign.
What's on the agenda is what the homeowner or someone other than the city's gonna install. The city can install signs in the right way where they choose to.
Right.
Well, I
And
think
that's
we just
what-
wanted to make that clear, because it
Yeah.
sometimes gets confusing with the management being under the nonprofit, and then this is actually in the right of way, and so if the city has, but it's a city-owned property, so we just, I think we're like, let's just put it on the table and make sure that we go about it the right way, especially because I can't put signs in the city's right of way.
Right. But so I'm clear,
Yes,
Okay.
you're doing.
Yeah.
So,
If it's in the city's sign budget to put 2 signs up, then we would appreciate it. We lost a grant that we could have gotten from the Community Foundation last year because they were concerned about wayfinding. They were like, how do people know where you are?
Oh, wow.
They had a hard time getting there. And then even just today, I was chatting with somebody in a shop and they were like, wait, I've lived in Homewood 15 years and I've
Where
never
is
heard
it?
about this. Where is it? I get that all the time.
Well, what about signage at the garden?
We do have signage at the garden, but it needs to be redone, but that would be on the nonprofit to do.
Okay, will it be, it won't look
No, it would be a bigger sign. The ones we have there, I just have the wrong phone numbers on them because they harken back to the days when it was managed by Birmingham Southern.
Okay.
So, yeah.
I mean, the only question I have, a couple of years back, we talked about signs close to downtown, and one of them was over by Rosedale. I remember talking about that. Will this coordinate with any of our city-related signs in terms of design or style or anything? I don't think we ever got any of those installed, and I know they're a little different. They were in the downtown district, but.
Right, so I don't know that any of the signs that you're referencing actually exist.
They don't.
Yeah.
But I thought maybe there was a format that we had approved about the way signs were supposed to look, or.
I'm not familiar with any
Okay.
sort of standard that the
Okay.
city has approved
Okay.
for wayfinding
Okay.
signage. Thinking through that though, that might be a good thing for the LMA to look at.
I was literally about to say, not to
Beautification.
forestall my own request,
Right,
but that might be something in the beautification board's plan.
So for the construction of the physical sign, is that coming?
So it's gonna be Randy prints a sign that looks like that one.
Randy
and-
is gonna do it.
So it is
and puts
in-house.
it on the pole, yep.
So is it appropriate to drop this?
I think so.
Probably.
Motion to
Yep.
drop.
All right, motion to drop by Counselor
Sorry
Sims.
that you had.
Second by Counselor,
Maybe
motion to
you-
drop by
Second.
Counselor Sims.
I
Do
approved
you
it to go
talk
on
to
the
Randy?
agenda, I'm sorry, I'll take responsibility.
Yeah.
Counselor Sims moved to drop, second by Counselor Harden.
What?
With the understanding that this will be
In-house, done in-house, yep.
built in-house, installed in the house.
All right,
Thanks.
all in favor?
Thank you.
Aye. Any opposed? All right, 4-0, it is dropped, and then we stand adjourned.
Special Issues Committee meeting for February 3rd, 2025. Counselor Sims.
Here.
Gear.
Here.
And one's out. Smith.
Here.
And Andrews.
Here.
All right, the meeting minutes from January 27th were distributed. I'd take a motion to dispense of the reading and approval.
Second.
All right, all in favor?
Aye.
All right, so that motion was by Andrus, seconded by Gear, and passes 4-0. New business 230125, request for consideration of a tent variance for Trinity United Methodist Church. Betsy McLean and Counselor Smith. Counselor Smith, would you like to give
Yes,
the report?
and Betsy apologized for not being here. She and her husband were going to the Homewood Theater, so they're just behind us enjoying a lovely night. Yes, glad for them to be there. This is the tent that we have approved for the last several years for Trinity's Discovery Weekend. It is where they serve the kids their meals, and it is a large, I think it's 100 foot, it's the same exact dimensions as it's been the last 4 years. I believe it's a 100-foot tent. And they erect it in the parking lot on the Seminole side of the building. And they set it up on Wednesday afternoon, and they'll,
First weekend of
first
March.
weekend of March, is it March the? Yeah.
And I think it's a 120 by 120.
120 by 120. Yeah, so that is that first weekend in March, so that's the 7th, 8th, and 9th. They'll set it up on Wednesday the 5th, cause it's pretty large, and then they'll take it down. Yeah, they'll set it up on Wednesday the 5th, and they'll take it down on that Monday the 10th. And it is,
Same Discovery Weekend tent.
yeah, same Discovery Weekend tent, yeah, that's really it. It's the same thing we've done last few years, just where they feed the kids to get them out of the building during the day.
Okay, thank you very much. Does anyone on the committee have any questions? Any other counselors have questions? Mike, do you need anything additional?
Move to approve.
Okay.
Second.
Have a motion from Counselor Andrus and a second from Counselor Smith. All in favor?
Aye.
All right, that passes 4-0. Okay, the next item is 240125, request for consideration of a variance to the temporary banner section of the sign ordinance at 2010 Brookwood Medical Center Drive. I spoke to Mr. Pugh about this, and the applicant has decided to pull this. I would entertain a motion to drop.
Motion to drop.
Second.
Okay, that is made by Counselor Smith, seconded by Counselor Andrus. All in favor?
Aye.
All right, that item is dropped 4-0.
Quick question, Mr. Chairman. Where are we with the sign ordinance? It's going to the BZA. Do we have to have a public hearing? Kale, do you know where we are? Yeah, what's,
Somebody gave it to my office to
schedule a public
try to
hearing?
format, and
Right.
then we're working on
Okay,
that, so.
okay, so it's coming.
Yeah, we're working on the formatting.
It's coming and going. Okay.
It's coming.
Okay, awesome.
All right.
Thanks.
Thank you. 250125, request for consideration of a concert on City Hall Plaza, Saturday, April 12th, 2025. Counselor Gear, in conjunction with the Homewood Arts Council. Counselor Gear, would you like to give a report?
Yes, sure. So unfortunately, as we as the Arts Council was working through the fee structure, we thought we had whittled it down so that they could afford it. And we came to find out that our stage, that JJ bought, I don't know how many years ago,
2005.
is apparently too rickety to move outside. And it was gonna require, somewhere between $1,500 and $2,200 or $2,300 to rent a stage for this concert. Black Jacket Symphony folks and others are gonna do a yacht rock concert.
So fun.
But we were very bummed out there for a little while, but then the idea came to try to move it to the Edge, and I think that's gonna happen.
Okay.
And we don't have to rent a stage and so forth, but, so we'd like to drop it again, and I hate that, but, I think we would like a general discussion around, would the city like events on the plaza? And if so, the Arts Council will need a little help, either with a stage that we might purchase, or next year, do some pre-planning and go ahead and budget for stage and that sort of thing in the plaza, if it's something we want to do.
No, I think that's a great point, and so JJ, Mayor, if possibly we could look at, the cost of a stage for potentially future programming and consideration of future budget, that would be fantastic. Sure. Great. All right, so that's a motion from Counselor Andrews, seconded by Counselor Smith. All in favor?
Aye.
All right, that's dropped 4-0. Without anything further, special issues is adjourned.
Planning and Development Committee meeting for February 3rd, 2025. Counselor Andrews.
Here.
Waltney.
Here.
Wolverton.
I'm here, but I have to leave in just a minute. So.
Oh, okay. Sims. Here. And Miss Nelms is
So,
out.
what is that now?
He's here.
You have four.
Keep on
Okay,
going.
he's here, all right.
Roll it.
Until he's not.
So we have 4. Okay, I need a motion to dispense with the reading and approve the minutes from our last meeting.
Second.
Gwaltney and Sims the second. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Andrew?
Aye.
That passes 4-0.
Yes.
Okay.
Easy. All right, old business 090125, request to consider annexation into the city of Homewood for 1749 Columbiana Road, Jim Hoy Homes.
That's me, I'm here this
Okay,
time.
hi, Jim, okay.
Sorry I missed it last time, I did have a misunderstanding with Bowen.
Thank you for being
My
here.
timing, I was walking out the door at 5:15 when you guys called me to come for 6.
Ah.
So, sorry about that.
Okay, thank you so much.
So you want me to just tell a little bit?
Yes, and do you have things to show us, like maps or?
Oh, I know
stuff?
Brian's got pictures. Brian's got
Yeah, he's
pictures.
gonna pull it,
Yeah.
up. Wait just a second.
Yes, and who is?
This is my builder, my partner, Dallas Bunkley.
Okay, great.
So I'm the developer, and then we have a company that we build on my lands.
Okay.
So you want me to start?
Yeah, if you'll sign in,
Okay.
please. Okay.
Sign in.
I got you,
You
Ms.
got me.
Wood.
Okay, and if you'll.
Dallas Bunkley, BU.
Okay, go ahead.
Okay, so I bought this about 14 months ago.
Yeah, if they need to come in, I don't know if there's more people back there.
No,
I think that's
When the last one signed.
They all came over. So we've been, for 14 months, looking at what to do, how to do, working with Arrington Engineering for topography, water flow engineering. And we went from, originally wanted to do 10 houses to doing 4. We did not want to do that much land, cause water flow problems, which 10 houses probably would have done. So we're basically going to do 4 2,500 square foot empty nester houses in the 750,000 range. There'll be a 2-car garage, flat level, living room, master bedroom, I guess it's called the main bedroom, for politically correct, and a kitchen. Upstairs would be a 3-bedroom, 2-bath. Like I said, in the 2,500 range. The 4 houses would go up right in a row. We've already talked to the fire department on the cul-de-sac and everything we have to put in on the road. Should be one more. There's a topography map that made us, we could have put.
So this is Columbiana here, sorry.
Yeah,
So
no.
that's Columbiana, and that's Old Columbiana Road there. So it stops basically where this is, and this would be projected new road.
the sewer system stops, if you'll show them. So we would be,
The existing sewer is here, the curb and gutter stops here, so all this is proposed.
yeah, so we would be bringing in these 4 houses onto the sewer system, bringing in water. The fire chief said he would have a plan for us for hydrants. He's the one that told us about the rotary at the end, the turnaround for the fire truck to turn without backing up or anything. So all of this was designed with an engineer and the fire department with input from everything. So basically, we don't think we will impact nature much. We will have a complete overview from our engineers as to where to put water retention ponds underground. There'll be nothing above ground. There'll be nothing in view. So everything will be taken care of underground to not disturb neighbors. Flooding houses that already get flooded over there, I think will actually stop that problem. I know they'll have a different opinion, but I think with our engineers.
Our engineers about this, our engineers.
I'm sorry,
So
what?
have you met with Mr. Hoy about this, about his water runoff, stormwater runoff, and his
No,
water?
no, we haven't talked. We've.
All that would have to be a part of permitting.
Yes, so we've worked with Arrington to get an overall concept of what needed to be done and progress down that path, but don't wanna progress down that path
Right,
until.
without the
Right.
annexation.
Yes.
And this is unincorporated Jefferson
It
County
is Jefferson
to
County right now.
Right,
Homewood.
and, you know, the north is Vestavia,
Mhm.
to the south and
Mhm.
east is Homewood.
This is, I think, actually, these are Vestavia.
Right.
And it's Homewood basically all along there.
Go back to the first map, it shows a little better.
I couldn't hear 'em.
Go
He
back to
said
the
just that first
Brian.
map shows
Yeah.
the,
Right.
Thank
shows
you,
the
Brian.
breakdown.
Right.
But we went through 3 or 4 or 5 different iterations of, you know, obviously.
Blue is the county.
Mhm.
Okay, yeah, so
Right.
this is the property.
Okay.
And that's where Old Columbia Road comes in and stops. And so there's a gate here, I guess I think one of these people owned it at some point. So there's a gate and it's just all wooded and Columbia Road's up here and it goes down that way. So different iterations that we had gone through, obviously, you know, you wanna try and maximize what you can, but knowing the impact it would have to surrounding areas, it's like, if we did more than 4 or 5, we'd have to have a retention pond and have a homeowners association and just all kinds of hoops and hollers that we didn't wanna have to go through, so we just realized just doing 4 individual home sites was the least impact to everybody. Kinda made the most sense for us financially and for the city to try and increase, you know, revenue that y'all could have, but not clear cut and not create this debacle that nobody around it would wanna deal with.
Right.
And to clarify, if the annexation is approved, then they would move forward with you all, we would subdivide the parcel, and it'll be zoned NPD
You have to have a subdivision.
at the planning commission, and then, it'd be a subdivision, it'd be PRD?
Well, you have to have rezone the properties, it's zoned.
3 things. You annex it, you subdivide it, you zone it.
And then they'd have to get building permits to
Right.
satisfy the engineering.
And just so you know, we have been building in Homewood now he's been building longer than I have, but I've been developing now for about 6 years. I've done probably 10 to 14 very nice large homes. Kale knows me.
Yeah, Cal and Lott, yeah.
We do a good job.
Do you own that other sliver that's in the county?
No, sir, no.
I
I'm
wish we
not
did-
sure who
wish we
owns
did.
that. I wanna think it's this property kinda owned probably all of that and at some point subdivided it and to sell it, kids, I'm not sure what, but no, we just own what's highlighted in the red.
Because this property is adjacent to Vestavia, we have to have a hearing that would be scheduled 90 days after we publish the publication. It couldn't be effective until you have a public hearing. You can't have a public hearing until the 90 days publication is in place.
Because it's adjacent to? Okay.
Because it's adjacent to, you can only annex halfway between city limits without having this, it's a 1942.
Basically letting them know you're annexing it into Homewood.
Correct.
Okay. That makes sense.
So I do wanna offer, I know the neighbors had come out last week and again tonight, and so if you can maybe designate one speaker, and if there's anyone that wants to just make a point, or do you all wanna wait until the public hearing, cause there will be a public hearing?
Go ahead. Well, I'm the one that lives at 1741 Woodbine. I think all of you received videos of the flooding from the runoff of the hill. My house flooded 5 times. I called
Homewood, I called Estavia, and I called the county about the flooding. And the county went out and looked at the sewer or the stormwater runoff to see if it was there and clean it out. But Kel came out, and because it wasn't Homewood, they couldn't do anything. So my concern is, I already have a water problem. My homeowners did not pay for my damage. It flooded 5 times. And I mean, I did have to hire an engineer to come out and design it to keep the water out of my house. So now I have a river that goes down the side of my house out into the street on Woodbine. And my neighbor across the street gets the runoff, the mud, it hits her driveway and goes into it at a stage. But I mean, I just have serious questions about this. I mean, it's rock. Are they gonna have to use dynamite? I mean, what is that gonna do to the foundation of my house? Who's gonna be responsible if my house is damaged, if the sewer, the runoff comes into my house again? I mean, those are all major issues for me.
And all of us, when we have multiple neighbors here, this is touching. I mean, I know she's talking for herself, but all of us have had to do, you know, all kinds of things like put in French drains and catchment system for our basements. And, you know, at my house, that's all my house right there, but it's flooded twice. And I had to pay out of pocket for that myself because, you know, insurance doesn't cover any of that. So I don't think it's a good idea. And the slope is incredibly steep. So the one directly behind my house, I don't know how they're even gonna build on that slope. So
without cutting it all out.
Right, without cutting all the vegetation out. There's just no way. So please do not allow him to annex it into Homewood.
Okay, so the next motion then, the motion that I need for this to move forward is to, without recommendation, pending a public hearing, and to set the public hearing 90 days. What is that date?
Yeah, it's in May. The last time I did it was May 12th, but I have to count again.
Mm-hmm.
And also, May 24th, or the next meeting is Memorial Day, so we need to talk about scheduling council meetings for May.
We do. Mike, I have a question. If they choose not to set a public hearing, do they have to send it out without recommendation?
No, there's no public hearing. They essentially denied the application.
Right, so you're talking about two different, I think you're talking about two different steps is my point. You're talking about, are you going to set a public hearing?
Okay.
If you want to set a public hearing, then you have to send it out without recommendation pending the public hearing.
Right.
If you don't want to set the public hearing, then it's done. So that, I think it's two different votes.
What the committee wants.
Procedure. I'm speaking to the committee, not you, I apologize. But yes, I just want to be clear that it's two different votes.
And the only issue is that the motion has to be made in the positive. It doesn't have to go through, but it has to be made in the positive.
Well, you don't have to set a public hearing if you're not going to consider
Right.
the petition.
There are walking the property, I don't know if you can pull up the first image, the circle in red. There's a culvert it comes to, and I don't know if this is getting with you or whoever, but it comes to basically a basin at the bottom of it, and there's a culvert that goes through, looks like it's an easement. I would assume, I don't know, but basically right in here is like a kind of the low-lying area, and there is a concrete pipe, probably a 16 or 24-inch concrete pipe that looks like it goes that way towards Woodbend or Woodbine. I don't know where it was from or who did it. It looks like it runs in between the houses like it was an easement at some point that caught some of that and tried to contain it into the stormwater system. We have not done research on that yet, but walking it, we've seen it. And it's, over time, as does most of them, dirt gets it. So I don't know if that's the county did that, if Homewood did it at some point to try and contain it so that it's not going through their homes. I don't know who took it.
Well, Homewood would have installed infrastructure in.
Okay.
Yeah.
But if it's here and goes that way, would Homewood
That was
have done
probably all
that?
Vestavia at one point.
Was that Vestavia at some point? Was all
No, I
this-
think it's always been county.
That's what Suzette paid
Wait,
for.
are you talking about, just so you know, I already have another leak in my yard where there's a huge drainage pipe I have no idea where it came from.
That's probably the one I'm
That's
talking about.
cracked, and I've got an 8-foot hole in my yard that I'll have to pay to repair.
And,
Because it's on a private yard, I mean.
yeah, I'm just curious if, like.
I
how it
have
got
no
started.
idea, I've only lived there 4 years. so.
Okay.
Does somebody back here want to talk? Go ahead.
I think
we
Rick would
live-
jump in on. My name's Ezekiel. I live at 1747 Woodbine, over on the corner of the property right here. I've been there for 16 years. My house, built in 1979 by the Owens. My house, unfortunately, has been through severe trauma over the last year, mostly ahead of my ownership. I know that the Owens, and when we purchased the property, explained to me the foundation repairs and the water issues that they dealt with. They spent, I don't know, somewhere in the ballpark of $50,000 to $60,000 restructuring the foundation and creating a water system runoff. So now when it rains, water comes directly off of that proposed parcel. It sweeps across my backyard. And one of the videos you saw earlier, if you saw that big green patch of water, I have no backyard when it rains. It shoots within about 10 feet of my house, curves around into a retaining pond, and then goes out to the front where there's a big pit. We call it the pit at my house. It's about the size of this room, and it fills up with water right there. So I'm fortunate right now, but any shift or movement around my house right now could be extremely detrimental to my property. It is uphill, and I am directly getting runoff from that property. So I share all the concerns that we have here. Furthermore, I would just, as a general point, not even to my own property, I look at Homewood as a community right now. My wife teaches in the community. I see just the strain that we now have on our schools, and I mean, a few more houses, yeah, it's a few more. These are more kids potentially coming into our neighborhoods. I don't know the numbers of the infrastructure and the resources the city has, but I see firsthand that we're strained in other areas. What's our real benefit other than some tax dollars to open the door up and potentially flood and just put more pressure on what's already just a very good, but also bubble-like community that we have now that's already so heavily strained? Thank you.
Okay, we live at 1735 Old Columbiana Road. We built 47 years ago. And yes, we have had some drainage coming down our yard, but it's coming off of Old Columbiana Road. But the way I look at it, there's very little land left in Homewood. And I'm for building the houses because our street is not very, our little area of Homewood is like the redheaded stepchild of Homewood, okay? Nobody wants to live in that area. The houses, you've got some great houses on Murray Hill.
I disagree.
Well, I would say.
Sold for $600,000 on our street.
But you have little bitty 2-bedrooms in West Hollywood that sell for more than ours will. And so I'm all for them building these houses.
So you'll get more value out of your
Yes,
house,
so
so
I'll
it's
get
a
more value
selfish
out of it.
reason.
Yeah, well,
But
are
their
y'all not
houses can,
selfish?
You're just
no, their
selfish.
houses can flood.
Our house
And they
floods
have to
too.
pay thousands of dollars for this flooding.
We have a French drain in our house too.
Okay, go ahead.
What is the process? So, I mean, I don't know much about the process, so like, when does the building start? Is it after it's annexed and then Homewood has some oversight over the process? Is
Well,
that how-
they would have to have it
We have
subdivided.
no oversight in,
Yeah.
No, I know that, but I'm saying like, they wouldn't start until they get it annexed and then
And
Homewood would
sub-
have
and subdivided
oversight
and
over the-
rezoned.
over the building and that kind
They'd
of.
have to approve the
Okay.
plans.
Yeah.
So we have
So-
to present, after the annexation and the next two steps, then we go to the city and present building plans for each lot. We'll have an engineer, at that point, once it's annexed, then we start spending a lot of money to get the complete engineering report and.
Water retention plans,
Yeah.
water runoff, all of that. And that's
You haven't,
what
you
we
haven't, I
require.
mean.
But where do you
Public
make it
hearings
run
every
off
step
if
of the way.
there's
There's public
no,
hearing for,
Right now.
does it go down in the street? Because the street off of Woodbine floods every time it rains.
Well, right now, at Homewood, just so, so you understand, it's in Jefferson County, unincorporated. We're gonna build there no matter what. We're either gonna build it in unincorporated Jefferson County, which will approve everything, or we're gonna put it in Homewood where we wanna be, who has very strict rules. So by doing it at Homewood with the county, your city engineers, the county engineers for Homewood, they are going to protect you. They are gonna be very strict on us. I've been building in Homewood for several years now. They have very strict things in order that we have to follow. So if they decide not to let us annex it, we just go to Jefferson County and say, here's our plan, we're building houses, and they're gonna say yes. They're not gonna consider you in Homewood. I hate to say it that way, but they're not gonna consider you because you're in Homewood. They're gonna consider what we wanna do in their county, where we're gonna plan on coming in and make sure that you don't get any more damage, or you don't get any damage at all.
But I don't understand how that can happen. This is an extremely steep lot, full of huge rocks, full of old growth trees. So to build 4 houses, you're gonna have to cut down most
ma'am.
of the trees.
No, ma'am, that's not right.
Yes, you are. To get the houses in there, you will. You'll have to flatten it at the bottom, which means
Actually,
you'll
we're
have
gonna
to-
be putting in between, you know, there's the 4, what do you call them, 4 gullies, so to speak, where I saw your water running down from one. We're literally gonna be cutting into each gully, building it into the side of the hill, creating water flow around the houses into retention ponds that will go to a huge cistern that'll hold all the water till it seeps
We'll
out.
do it as the engineers have designed
Right.
it,
But
which
that's
the
basically-
engineers
So
will
the system
design
is
it.
underneath these new houses?
Whatever the engineer requires us to
I believe
design.
that it seems like there's some discussion with the neighbors that still needs to happen as far as some details. And I know that Counselor Nellums is not here, and she's very, you know, she's the ward representative, so, I mean, I just see that we should possibly just carry this over this evening. Or, yeah.
May I interrupt with, also, I'm Walker Short, it's your better half of this. But, by the way, my family's been here since 1886, so I have a vested interest. And to tell you that I think a proposal of what they're gonna do, not that I want them to spend $300,000, $400,000 in engineering studies or whatever, can that be looked at a later date to somebody, y'all, whoever, there's a proposal of what they're gonna do, and to some degree to answer to her questions. I don't have any, it won't affect me. But certainly I understand her situation. But if they're gonna do all this work that they say they're gonna do, engineering, it seems like they're backing their program and their building with this. And I would propose that that be looked at just as a matter of record to say, okay, they're gonna do this. They're on record that they're gonna do this.
Well, can I ask a question? If y'all are planning on building anyway, even if it remains in the county, then what's the benefit of y'all having it annexed in Homewood?
Sales
Homewood
value.
Homewood City Schools.
Better
Yeah.
schools, like I said,
That's
every
a
house.
selfish thing, but.
Yeah. Every house I have built has been in Homewood. Edgewood.
Great neighbors.
Okay.
Hey, the community.
Yeah.
What does the committee want to do? What is the desire of the committee? There's all 3 of us. So-
Yeah.
Right, Andrew's not here, is he?
No, he left.
No,
Oh, yeah, that's right.
Yeah.
Motion for approval. I'll make a motion for approval.
Motions have to be made in the positive.
He did, he said. he
I know,
did-
I
he
know,
said-
I'm explaining.
Yeah, yeah.
That's the motion.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, because it has to be in the affirmative.
Yes.
Correct.
Right.
Right, just have a public hearing.
For May 26th.
Well, we don't know, cause that's Memorial Day, you gonna come?
Well, 19th. 19th.
I don't know that the
Don't know.
nineteenth
You
covers
can
the
make the
90
second
days.
and then don't know.
Oh, okay.
That's fine.
We will send it
I
as soon as
forgot
can,
that
if that's
I'm
what
not-
direction.
Okay, second.
Okay. Okay, all those in favor? Those opposed?
No.
No. All right, that motion fails, 0-3. Okay. Without objection, we're adjourned.
So we've got public hearing set up for 2.
We have.